You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.
Thank you for listening to Community Forum. My name is Johnny Chandler. I'm the owner of KCCC 930 AM and the host of Community Forum. And with me today is Christina Mann, and we are doing like a hybrid Honeybee Hotline show today is what we're going to call it. So Christina is the New Mexico bee lady, the beekeeper of record for Southeast New Mexico, at least. Even if that's not an official designation, I'm definitely giving it to you. You take care of the bees in our community, so you get that designation. How are you doing, Christina?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me this morning.
I want to remind everybody as well is that Christina is a bit of a guest host on our radio station. She does host the Honeybee Hotline, and she likes to record a podcast and a radio show whenever she's got some relevant stuff to talk about. So always pay attention to what we're doing here at the radio station, because some Wednesdays at noon, you're going to hear Christina Mann. Sometimes at Tuesday and Thursday, you're going to hear me interviewing her. And first of all, Christina, why don't you go ahead and remind all of our listeners who you are, what you do, and why the bees are so important to you.
Well, I'm the Eddy County Beekeeper on call. Fire stations, Sheriff's Department, and CPD, as well as the NMSU Ag Extension. When there's a bee problem, they call me, and I'm on Facebook regularly, putting my info out there. I do respond to emergency bee calls, and I don't charge anything because it can be life-threatening.
Okay. Now, how do you fund this adventure of yours, right? These things are not free. The suits aren't free. The equipment is not free. The gas to get there is not free. So how do you finance this? Because obviously the Game and Fish and the Eddy County Fire and all them, they're not paying you for it. You volunteer, so or you accept donations, or how does that work for you?
No, they're not paying me. I do this all out of pocket. I decided to give it to God in May and said, I don't charge anymore for cutouts because this is too important, Johnny. A person died on August 2nd.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get to. That's kind of the whole point. So I've interviewed you a few times, right? And you've had quite a few episodes of the Honeybee Hotline air here on KCCC 930 AM. And if anybody listened to me when I talked to you, they would obviously get a very skeptical feeling from me on the idea that any bee is dangerous, right? I like the idea of pollination. Like if I've got a bee, like if you're going to tell me I should keep wasps in my backyard, obviously I'm going to get rid of those right away. So can I put the Africanized bee or the killer bee on the same level as a wasp?
Even higher.
Even higher than that. So more aggressive than a wasp.
Well, you've got a small colony of wasps. They don't get much bigger than a softball or maybe a football.
Mm-hmm.
These Africanized hives, they get massive. And you're talking to thousands of bees all attacking at the same time. That's a threat.
That's what was that movie? A movie with Macaulay Culkin in it when he was a kid, and he ended up getting killed by a swarm of bees at the very end of the movie. I think it was called My Girl or something like that. Very interesting old movie. Very famous when I was a kid. It was a very popular movie. But at the end of the movie, Macaulay Culkin is killed by a swarm of bees. It's very, very sad. And then it got lost on everybody that stuff really, really happens. Now, without naming any names, without even giving a location, because we are not here to indict any organization that may have had some bees living in their building or something at this time, I'd like you to kind of give us a rundown on what you know about the gentleman that unfortunately lost his life on August 2nd, and you said that was because of an attack by killer bees. Is that true?
It was, okay. And this is out in the oil fields here in southeast New Mexico. The oil company had a problem since late June. They couldn't get to this equipment because there was a colony underneath the compressor. And they had called around. They called me and wanted me to come out there. And I, oil companies are kind of known for not paying beekeepers, independent operators to do their work. So I said, how am I going to get paid for this? And he goes, well, that's up to you. And I told him to call a pest control local to him and pay them to do it professionally. Well, this Friday, 3 men were ordered to remove these bees with shovels. One man operated the loader and picked up the compressor. They didn't have protection. All 3 of them ended up in the hospital, and 1 man died of cardiac arrests.
Now, you're not a health professional, right? You're not a doctor. You're a bee expert. So can you 100% contribute this gentleman's death to the bee attack if it's a cardiac arrest?
I know a person at Lovington Hospital.
Okay. All right. So that appears to be the issue. Now, I have a question for you real quick is you suggested that they call a pesticide company. Those things can be hard. Those companies can be hard to get a hold of here. They're so busy. There's such a demand. There's not really enough of them, right? Mm-hmm. Time is money if you're a company, for sure. But you had the opportunity to go out there?
Yes, I did.
But you weren't able to help them on this time, even though you don't charge?
Oh, well, that's in Lee County.
All right, you're the Eddy County Beekeeper on the record. Okay, so who's the Lee County Beekeeper on record? Don't name them, but they have one?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they do it for free too, or is that only you?
No.
Okay.
They called him that afternoon after the gentleman died and the other 2 were still in the hospital, and they contracted for him to come out there, and they had him provide a suit for the operator, and he went out there on a Sunday when no one was around. They kind of told him to keep it under wraps, and they paid him, but they paid him a lot more than they would have if they'd gone through pest control, and a man is dead.
Okay, so for the record, you know this because of your connections into the beekeeping industry here, right, and the pest control industry in our region. So you're hearing this, but this is all allegedly at this point. It's very important that we say that this is what you believe. You know this, but we are not citing a police department. We're not citing a fire and rescue. We're not using any of their information at this point. This is just us speaking to you about what you know. Now, it's very important that we say that, Christina, because we could be wrong, all right? And we are not saying, we're not advocating, or not advocating is not the right word. We are not sitting here and saying, this company did this and this was wrong. I mean, we're not going to name any companies because this is all alleged at this point.
Correct.
Right? Until there's an investigative agency and an investigative report that comes out, this is all just alleged. This is what you understand is to happen. I just want to characterize that. That's very important. That this is not the police department or the fire department or sheriff's department, for that matter, telling us this is what happened. This is your information, is what happened. So what I want to do is I don't really want to focus too much on the idea. You can jump in here in a second, Christina. I don't want to focus on the idea of a company doing something incorrectly. I want to focus on the idea of how important it is to be safe around bees, and maybe some of the things that you should do if you decide to take care of a beehive yourself in the backyard, which you're allowed to do, right? Nobody's preventing you from buying a suit, suiting up, and going and taking care of some bees, right? So if a private company wants to go take care of some bees, right, there's some things that they might want to think of before they go ahead and send some workers in to take care of it, right?
Right.
Right. So let's focus on that.
Okay, that's hearsay, because I happen to have a relationship with this other beekeeper.
Right. I just want to make sure we know that it is hearsay, that we're not indicting anybody at this point. It's very sad that's what happened, and this is very serious. And when you have the death of an individual, when they're on the clock with a business doing anything for the company under their job description, it's very serious. So we are not getting into the business of what X company did right or wrong. Correct. We're in the business of educating people that there are bees in our community, and the bees that we're getting now are killer bees. They're aggressive. They're Africanized bees. They're the ones that have been scaring us about for decades and decades in the news. Now they're here.
They're here.
Okay. So
in July, I removed one right off of Lodgett.
Yeah, is that the one I saw on your YouTube channel?
No.
There's one you out of a hot tub that you were removing.
Oh, that was last year.
Okay. Now those are
down in Jowell.
Those are gnarly videos, too, by the way. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into the safety equipment. There's nobody here in Eddy County that can tell us more about how to safely interact and even extricate bees if needed than you, right? Now, we've had an incident recently in a neighboring county that shows that this is something that needs to be on the top of your mind when you deal with bees. Not the bees you're coming across are not the little friendly honeybees that are just going to buzz around you and say, hey, I like your yellow shirt, right? It's going to be different ones. So let's go ahead and get into some of the safety things that you need to do.
Well, let me tell you, I've removed 18 colonies thus far this year. And
All Africanized bees?
Only 3 of them were European good bees.
Okay.
So that's 15 Africanized colonies.
That's like 90% of the bee colonies are Africanized bees at this point. So it's
it
not
is.
even a matter of if they're coming. They're here.
They're here.
And they're aggressive.
And they're invasive. I mean, if they decide to move into your house or your tree, a honeybee can get through a crack the width of a dime. You're not going to stop them. I had one lady call me July 2nd. She said, well, my son just bought this house on Mesquite, and these honeybees got in. There was a screen missing in the attic. She said they're around the chimney, and they're coming into the living room. She said the house is empty, and she gave me the address. She said, why don't you go over and remove these bees? They're good bees. And I said, well, first, they didn't need a missing screen to get into the house. Second, they're not your bees, lady. You're not the homeowner. You said your son bought the house, and he had a bee inspection. Now, I don't know why he decided to not go with the company that inspected the house, but I'm not going to go over to his house and remove these bees. I recommend you contact Marlon Voss at Action Pest Control. I endorse him. Tell him the bee lady sent you, and he'll give you the same exact quote he'd give anybody else.
So tell me a little bit about some of the things that I would need that I'm not familiar with if I was going to go handle some bees. Like, what do I need?
Well, I have a bee vacuum, and it's designed to vacuum the bees up gently so as not to kill them. You know, I've made modifications on it. And I have a sprayer with lots of Dawn dish soap, because the Dawn dish soap kills them on contact. It's a surfactant, and it knocks them right out of the air. You know, bees breathe through their skin. They got spiracles they breathe through. So you hit them with the Dawn dish soap, and that's it.
They'll die?
Yeah.
They die from Dawn dish soap?
Yeah, it suffocates them.
So, like, not all bees are bad bees, right? If I have a European bee colony, but they're kind of bothering me in my backyard, I don't want them there, but you want to relocate them, you don't hit them with the Dawn dish soap.
Oh, no, that's where the vacuum comes in.
Right. So,
And
basically, Dawn dish soap is going to be for the Africanized bees, the killer bees.
Yep.
And so you don't mess around. You kill every hive that is a killer bee.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we don't mess around. You kill them on the spot. You transport them and kill them. How do you do it?
Well, the queens will abscond in a heartbeat. That beekeeper that cleaned up the site where there was an Africanized bee attack, he told me, you know, Chris, they were pretty chill. This happened on Friday. He got there on Sunday. And I said, you know, that's because the queen absconded in the attack. Those are the worst of the worst. And she's still a mile around, and that colony's going to relocate. You know, they're still out there.
So can you ever get rid of a killer bee colony? The queen takes off, and then let's say that the queen is killed, but they'll create another queen, right? They will find another queen.
Well, if they take off, they're in flight. They can't requeen. They have to have a newly laid egg, no more than 48 to 72 hours old, to build a new queen on. So the egg has to be in the comb. The comb has to be set up.
Okay.
But if I go for a colony removal and right away they're attacking me, I get out the Dawn dish soap and I'm on kill mode, you know. I've got to remove all the comb, but I got to find that queen and kill her.
What about smoke? I know the smoke seems to be something that subdues bees a little bit. Does that work with the killer bees?
No.
No, the smoke doesn't work.
Well with European bees.
Yeah, but not the killer bees at all. The smoke doesn't, because you would think that you know, this is just me thinking without ever doing it or knowing anything about it. By the way, you would think you just run up there and you smoke the whole colony real quick, and they all just get kind of lazy, and you can grab that queen real easy.
What does the smoke do?
I don't know. It subdues them.
No, it signals to them that there's a fire, there's a threat to the colony, and they all go and they'll load up on honey and get ready to move out. Now, if you've got a good European colony and you're smoking too much, the queen will quit laying. You're doing your bees harm. But I told you, Africanized queen bees will abscond in a heartbeat. They'll take off and leave.
So they've literally adapted to the point for ultimate survival.
Yes.
Basically, especially the queen, right?
Correct.
Right.
Now,
is that because they've always tried to be, throughout their existence, they've always tried to be killed? There's always been a predator, whether the humans are their ultimate predator, probably. But the idea is like, so European bees were loved, and like historically, they weren't taken out as much, but the killer bees have this instinct that they're always trying to be killed, so they have a different way of reacting.
You're being really anthropomorphic, attributing human emotions to animals.
Kind of, in a way.
Killer bees are Africanized genetics. They came from Tanganyika, Africa originally. And European bees are a completely different set of genetics. They do interbreed freely, but the Africanized genetics are always going to be more dominant. It's just genetics from a different continent.
Okay. And for the record, we call them Africanized bees because they started from a country in Africa. Right,
correct.
No other bearing than that.
Tanganyika.
Yeah, I don't know where that's at.
No longer a country.
Oh, yeah. What is it now? Do you know what country it is now?
It's part of Tanzania.
Yeah.
And Kenya and Zambia.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I know where on the map that we're thinking about, at least.
Now there's a lot of
and they didn't transport over. They didn't fly over the ocean. They hung out in boxes or something on a ship.
A Brazilian businessman brought 20 mated queens with their entourage to Brazil. And it was not for maximum honey production because Brazil was 4th in the world at the time. It was for Brazil being subtropical. The European bees were susceptible to a lot of fungus and a lot of diseases with all the moisture.
Right.
And he wanted a hardier bee. Well, we know the story how they escaped, and 30 years later they're here. But Africanized bees are very pest resistant. They're survivors.
Are they productive? Do they make more honey than the European hives?
They make significantly less, like 1/5 as much.
Okay, so this Brazilian guy brought it over thinking he had the secret to maximizing his honey capacity, and turns out it was the opposite.
Yep.
All right.
Brazil is nowhere on the map in world honey production now.
At all anymore.
Well, none of those South American countries are because they're all Africanized.
Okay, so let's get to the big picture here. How can we prevent this? How can we stop this? Or is it already too gone?
I think we have to take a stand. There's people in West Texas that are breeding thousands of these hives, and they say, oh, well, we just... there's one man that says he does clinics on how to live with the Africanized bees, and Carlsbad needs to take a stand. I've talked to the mayor about this repeatedly. Let's say that it stops here. Too many people are going to the hospital.
Okay, how do you stop it? How?
Gotta
You're the
kill
expert.
Those Africanized genetics. Saturday I killed a queen in my bee yard. Now this is one of my biggest colonies, but it got usurped by a queen. And now I'm scrambling for queens through the internet, trying to decide whether I want Italians or Carniolans.
Well, the Italians make better honey, I heard. Right, the Italian bees have a sweeter honey, more natural.
Nope.
No.
No.
Yeah, it's a joke on the fact that Italian food is all real. There is no fake food in Italy at all. There's no Americanized food in Italy.
The Italians are a beginner's bee to start with. They're the gentlest, but they like to swarm more. Their production is medium.
Is there such a thing as an American bee or a North American bee specifically? You talk about European bees, now you're talking about Italian bees, and the French bees are lazy, whatever, you know what I mean? But my point being that Is there a North American bee, or bees not natural to the North American continent?
They're not natural here.
Now, so I mean, just like many things,
continental geography.
Yeah.
And
like corn is a very North American thing, right? Pumpkins are pretty much a very North American. There are things that we have in North America, like the juniper is not natural in North America. We just have juniper everywhere because of the Spanish, right?
No,
that's absolutely.
Western juniper is a native.
The junipers we have here are Spanish junipers, and they kill you. It's like, especially in Albuquerque, they were brought by the Spanish a long, long time ago.
Juniperus occidentalis is a native.
There's juniper all over here that is not native. It's invasive.
Are you talking about the salt cedar?
No, maybe I am. Yeah. And what's happening? All that salt cedar's dying lately. Did you notice that? Why is it all dying all of a sudden?
Because BLM's trying to kill them.
Who is?
Never mind.
There's.
Because, like you said, they're an invasive.
They are incredibly invasive. Yeah, maybe I am getting confused because those things they suck up so much water and produce so little. Well, we're getting sidetracked, but either way, bees are not natural to the North American continent as far as we know historically all throughout.
Now, there have been some great bee breeders. I mean, bees originally were brought over on sailing ships in the late 1700s. So, none of those are extant here.
Okay. So we don't have any American bees. There's no bee that's natural to the North American continent.
Not really.
Okay.
No, but they have naturalized.
Well, yeah, they just like any other person in this country, they came over and then adopted and assimilated, and now they're American bees. Yeah.
You know, in 2010, I found a colony of German bees.
Okay. Is that special?
It was an experience. They're really, really small. I had vents in my helmet, and they were getting in through the vents.
Oh, yeah, because they were so tiny.
Yeah.
So we've had a pretty good time during this conversation, but I want to bring it full circle. The reason that you're here and the reason that you're on is because there is a man that lost his life this month, and this is actually September when this is airing, lost his life in the month of August trying to take care of some bees, right?
Right.
Trying to take care of them, meaning like not love them, get rid of them, right? They turned out to be Africanized bees. They swarmed. They attacked him, killed him. They also attacked two of his coworkers as well, right? So that's not a positive thing either. So this is horrible. Thank you for passing this information along to us. It's a real cautionary tale to not get lazy around the bees. Be careful what you're doing when you if you're removing a bee colony. So why don't you sum it up? We're almost out of time today already, but why don't you sum up for us? As you always do, but it needs to be repeated again and again and again. What should we do? How can we help the bees in our county? How can we protect people in our county? And how do we move forward to make sure that no one else is hospitalized, no one else loses a life?
If you are around a bee colony that's Africanized and you've got equipment like you're mowing around it, you start up a weed eater, they're going to let you know that they're there. Unfortunately, just back off. Call me. Call the fire department, police department, sheriff.
Let's get some numbers out there. How do we get a hold of you? Go ahead and give us all that good information.
My number is 575-885-0258.
885-0258.
Now you gotta leave a message on that.
Yeah, you're an avid phone screener. Fair enough. No, that's a good thing.
It's a landline.
Okay.
Don't text it.
Yeah, okay. That's all right. One more time with that number,
575-885-0258.
Okay, it's a landline. Leave a message. You check it all the time.
Yes, I do.
And you're out and about a lot too, so it wouldn't be too surprising. And then,
if I can't help, there are other people in the community. The homeowner confronted with a bee swarm, they just want it out of there. And there's lots of beekeepers that'll come take your swarm. And October, November, those Africanized bees, there will be swarms. Not good bees.
Okay.
So you have to consider what they do with them afterwards.
You could also call the non-emergency dispatch line as well, I assume. Right?
Correct.
The Eddy County non-emergency dispatch line. I have that number here. If you give me just 1 second, I'll be able to pull it up right away. So that's going to be 575-885-2111. That's the non-emergency dispatch line. Now, if somebody is attacked by killer bees, then that is an emergency, and you call the appropriate number, which would be 911 for that. But if you just have a swarm and this is not an emergency, call Christina Mann. Also call the non-emergency dispatch line for Eddy County, and then they'll start getting you to the right place. I had to call them this weekend on something else, and they were incredibly helpful. So it's really nice. And it's the non-emergency dispatch one, so there's not panicking. You're not messing it up if you make a call that's not like somebody's life's in danger at that number. So that's important to do. You're on Facebook. Why don't you help everybody help us find you on Facebook?
No, thanks.
Yes, that's how people can message you.
I'm Christina Hunting Lady, HUNTNLADY.
Okay, all right.
Facebook.
Great. I mean, yes, Facebook, unfortunately, is a main communication tool nowadays, despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan. Now, we're finishing up. We're almost done. What else you want to say? You want to close us out?
People, protect yourself. Honeybees are not endangered. They're not always a good thing. Please protect yourself. Some people will die with one sting, but the way these Africanized killer bees attack, you got them covering you. Please, please be careful.
Okay. Christina Mann, the New Mexico bee lady. I think that title's close enough. The beekeeper of record for Eddy County. You got a lot of different titles. You obviously have a great education in this. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank, obviously, Southeast New Mexico College for recording in our podcasting studio in the bookstore. A great location, a lot of energy happening in the bookstore with school starting, a lot of students around. So definitely come by and visit us here if you'd like. We're always available to hang out. If you would like to be on the show, let us know as well. You can email me at chandlerbroadcasting@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook at KCCC 930 AM. And I think that's it, Christina. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, John.
You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.